You got questions, I got answers. I recently asked you guys if you have any questions for me that would hopefully help other viewers in terms of your dilemmas. And I also kind of perused the comment section and plucked a few myself. I want to see if I can do this like maybe once a month. I also have a Q&A episode on Patreon coming live, so you can check that out if you are a member. But anyway, let's get to these right away. Today's sponsor is us. ThePaintPeople.com is your go-to destination for quality paint and paint supplies. We're more than just a paint store, we are your partner in bringing color to life. Visit our website today and discover a world of colors, quality, and convenience. And as a thank you for supporting us on YouTube, use coupon code JAMES5 for 5% off your order. So the first one is from Coastal Diva. Is Stix something to use on cabinets before painting it? And is it preferred to a regular primer? What makes these two things different? Better. Stix, for those of you who don't know, is a product that essentially sticks to everything. It's branded as being one of the best adhesion primers on the market. It sticks to metal, it sticks to plastic even. So in theory, great cabinet primer. And while it does work well, it may not necessarily be the best option for a lot of people. One of the complaints that people have sometimes with Stix is the coverage of it. It doesn't necessarily go super far when applying it, but I still think it's a fine product. In terms of a regular primer as being an alternative, it depends on what you define as a regular primer. You have drywall primer that you might use on your walls. Probably wouldn't recommend that for your cabinets. An all-purpose primer, that should be fine. But if you have wooden cabinets with some knots and all that, then maybe you want to go with a shellac primer to really prevent that tannin bleed from happening. But I was talking to the owner of the Paint People, and he had a really great way of putting it. Think of your primer as being part of your cabinet refinishing system. Normally when you have a product that you're putting on a cabinet, there's usually a recommended primer that comes as a base coat. So do a little digging, see what you can find. If you're working with something like Envirolac, they have your top coat options and primers. Same thing with Canlac. Whatever you're using, just go with that package deal and it's probably going to work best. Donnie Donut King says, do you do consults in helping choose exterior paint colors? So typically we don't have a way that we like to simulate an in-person color consultation over the web, but what we have been doing recently, and it's been pretty successful, is custom color palette pyramids, which essentially is just our way of making color palettes. I'll leave my email in the description down below if you want your own custom palettes made by me, but essentially we just take a 3, 6, or 12 color palette that is kind of suitable to your needs and your tastes, and then I just sort of put them all together in a way that makes sense. So you have your main colors that are more kind of broad, your default color choice that you can use in the majority of your home. Then you have support colors, which are more secondary, and then accent colors in the finishing row. So that's kind of what we do. And yes, we also do them for exterior as well. New build, acid staining concrete floors, a brown copper color. What wall paints would complement and go with it? Thankful for suggestions. This is cool. I think acid staining is a type of stain for concrete essentially. And by going with a brown copper color, rather than like a patina copper. Either way, honestly, I think the boring answer is an off-white. A warmer off-white, ideally something that is more yellow or even orange leaning, just a slight undertone of it, just to sort of fit that same sort of mold color-wise, but also act as a neutral canvas to really bring the floor to the forefront. I think a really cool floor like that should be the accent in this case. So whatever you use on the wall, I would probably go much lighter to give you that nice contrast, and then also more neutral, but maybe staying within that same family, just so you have a really nice relationship between that wall and that floor. Maybe an alabaster by Sherwin-Williams. Who knows? Lori says, my chosen home builder requires you to pick all flooring, cabinet colors, floor colors, fixtures, all in advance of construction. With this in mind, what would be the safest colors or color families that wouldn't have any dramatic appearance changes based on light sources? I think you need to go neutral in this situation. The reason is you don't really know how everything is going to come together, unfortunately, so you might as well pick something that is very passive and sort of desaturated. I wouldn't go necessarily with something that's too light because it could feel washed out if the room gets really good lighting. Anything within the 60 to 70 LRV range is probably preferable. That's kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people. If you can get a hold of any samples of the flooring, anything you can at all, just to sort of see the undertones with, I would probably recommend that because that'll give you an idea of whether you should go maybe a little cooler, a little warmer, depending on what type of woods are being used. If it's more gray leaning and engineered hardwood or something, then maybe you don't want to go too beige leaning with your neutrals. Maybe you want to go in that taupey gray area instead. So keep it neutral, keep it right in the middle. Don't go too gray, don't go too creamy. Something like an agreeable gray, perhaps, accessible beige. One of those options maybe would work really well in Sherwin-Williams. And if you are going towards one of those neutrals, then around that 65-ish LRV should be good. Or the other option is just go with an off-white, like maybe a white dove or cloud white perhaps. Just a touch of warmth, but not enough to make it feel overly creamy and yellowy. Ava 19288 says, years ago, there was a beige/tan that was very popular with landlords. Would you happen to know the actual color? No. That's because there is no definitive builder's beige, landlord's tan, but I think I do know what color you're talking about. To me, that builder's beige color is something like Lotus Pod by Sherwin-Williams. Just kind of yellow leaning, creamy, not too vibrant, but also not neutral enough to really feel like it's just sort of fading in the background. You do notice it when you see it, and it's usually not a great look, especially when used everywhere. So this next question is, I placed new porcelain tiles for my shower walls, and it has this beige tint to it and not white. Now my white walls clash with the tile color. Do you think it's best to go with a wall color that is darker or the same color as the tile color? I hate to see my tiles looking darker than the walls. Well, I think you've given your answer right there. You want that contrast. You want your tiles to be lighter than the walls. So I think an easy option is just to go with that same sort of family, but a darker variation to allow the tiles to be much lighter and brighter. So maybe when you're in that shower, it'll feel brighter when you're using it. I mean, that's why I always recommend just test your colors, test your tiles, get a sample of the tile, bring it into your bathroom so you can see how it looks. It'll make a huge difference. I wouldn't try and match the tile color because oftentimes it'll be very difficult to do that. Sometimes tiles don't have one color within them, they have multiples. So which part of the tile you're trying to match? Yours might be just a simple opaque one color tile, but even still, it's just a different material, a different finish. It's not going to be something that you're going to match perfectly anyway, so why even try? Just go for that contrast. Blue Hellcat 1's asking about Advance by Benjamin Moore. Does it get yellow over time like oil-based paint? Now, for those of you who weren't around when oil paint existed and it was very, very popular, it did get yellow over time, and it was especially noticeable with doors and trim. So if you had a nice bright white oil finish, it would look amazing as soon as you put it on. It would level really well. It would harden. It was just awesome until you fast forwarded a couple years, and then that beautiful crisp white ended up looking like your teeth after you've been binge drinking coffee for years. Advance is one of those weird sort of oil water-based hybrid paints that's admittedly really cool, but unfortunately, like the oil paint it sort of replicates, it can yellow in time a little bit as well. Probably not as much as oil-based paint typically does, but definitely more so than a simple water-based paint, which really doesn't yellow. Be mindful of that, can happen, but depending on the color, you might not even notice it. If you have any other questions you want me to get to, put it in the comment section below, and we have another video right over here.